That to me has a very Kevin Parker, Tame Impala vibe to me. Like I hear it. You know, just like a very Tame Impala kind of drum beat. And then like I'd think of like a bassing. And it's just for playing a few chords. Like I'm not playing any rhythm, but those chords, maybe even, you know, implementing effects, it's going to inspire something in your head, and you know, you'll piggyback off that.
Right.
Guys, thanks so much for joining me. I'm Bobby Strand with Production Online, sitting here with co-founder Isaac Myers. This is our interview.
Thank you. I'm going to keep that.
No.
Welcome to the studio, guys. I'm here with Bobby. Bobby, where are we at right now?
We are in my home studio in Nashville, Tennessee. Yep.
It's been a real honor being here the last 2 days. I've always been a fan of just everything you do musically. I'm always fascinated by people who, it's like anytime I hear something that you do, it's like, it's so simple, yet it always sounds different. It always sounds unique, whether it's you playing guitar, whether it's what you do with producing wise. Yeah, it's fun for me just to hang out with you and see you in your element a little bit. So thanks for spending some time.
Yeah, this has been fun, man.
Hanging. Do you want to just talk a little bit about, you did a really cool series, you kind of dove into one of your sessions.
Yeah.
Talk to me about it for 1 or 2 minutes. What was the song? And
Yeah, no, it was super fun. We got to work through a song that's part of a project of mine called Fathoms, which originally when I started it was just an instrumental project. Kind of a way for me in between doing other musical projects to create instrumental music because I love it. I love making instrumental music. But kind of this year I started collabing with some other people, and I kind of I was neglecting the Fathoms thing a little bit and didn't know what to do with it, and was just kind of one day I think like, why don't I just make this a little bit, branch out a little bit and make it more than just an instrumental thing. Kind of keep some of the cinematic elements of what Fathoms is. But yeah, I think right now, and it's still kind of developing, you know, as we speak, but the goal is kind of to just create cool cinematic pop. I'm calling it cinepop. I'm coining the term cinepop, and just working with really cool different female voices and artists, and just writing like pop music that has a lot of cinematic feel, but are still like kind of pop songs, and feature just really amazing, powerful female voices. And so, yeah, that was the song that we walked through in one of the sessions, was a song called Just Like That, with an amazing artist named Cicely, who's insanely talented. And I'm really excited about it. I'm excited for people to hear it as we're doing this interview. It's not out yet, but of course I'm excited and can't wait to show it. So
you created something so cool that would take most people so long to get something like this. Obviously, it's, you know, your life of developing musicianship, which we'll talk a little bit about. It's cool to get in your mind a little bit. Yeah, so I was just fascinated by it. You're not even trying, and it just sounds awesome. This is really cool.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, that means a lot, truly. I think so much of that is, you know, a lot of music creation, it's a bit of a muscle, you know, like, sure, there's like raw talent out there and a lot of people have it. But I think so much of it is just discipline. And, you know, for me, I'm so blessed to be able to do what I do in creating a lot of music, whether it's production or writing songs. But it's kind of like the longer you do it and the more you do it, you're just exercising that creative muscle to where, you know, if you are put on the spot a little bit and told, hey, create a song with these few tools, you know, it's not necessarily going to be the most amazing thing, but having kind of a developed creative muscle helps that for sure. So that's, you know, to encourage people out there, it's like the more you kind of do it, the less daunting that kind of seems.
Right. And I want to ask one more question about kind of the current life in this, and then I want to actually rewind a little bit and talk about young Bobby, first time you got inspired with music. But real quick, a day in the life of you, I think you told me you write roughly about like 30 songs a month. Talk to me a little bit about what you just said, and you're working that muscle a lot. That's your job. But yeah, what are you doing day in and day out here in Nashville? Yeah,
so it's probably not 30 songs a month, but it does feel like that sometimes. It's a lot of songwriting. Last summer, I signed a pub deal with Capital Christian here in Nashville. And so kind of like, yeah, my like day job, I kind of call it, is songwriting. And so it's cool because I get to work with a lot of different people, you know, in different genres of music. It's not all Christian. Some of it is music in the worship space. Some of it's music in the pop space. In fact, quite a bit of it lately has been music in the pop and sync world. So it's really cool because I'm writing a ton, but it kind of changes on a daily basis what we're writing for,
Sure.
Which I really enjoy. I think in music in general, I would get bored almost if I just did one thing. Like if I just was a producer, I think I would start to get tired of it. Or if I just wrote songs, or like if I just toured, you know, and played live. I love all those things, but I think one of the most, you know, exciting things about my job is how it's constantly changing.
Yeah.
You know, there's years where I'll go on the road and I'll tour, and that's so fun, and then I'll go back home and I'll be in the studio for a year and doing more production, or take a couple months to produce a record and then go back to writing songs. It's a lot of change, and I really love that. It keeps me feeling inspired and creative and out of a rut. But yeah, as far as like the main bulk of the work I'm doing these days, it's a lot of writing for Capitol. Yeah, it's been awesome. I love it.
And even hearing you talk, you know, I feel like, you know, like I remember when I was talking with Charles Jones, who's a friend of ours.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like those who have maybe grown up more in the church circle feels a little bit strange. It's almost like it's two different worlds, doing something in a religious context and then maybe doing something just writing a pop song. And I think there is this beautiful element to a church in the sacred spot, but then you talk to someone like Charles, for him, there's really no difference playing on a stage if it's with Andra Day, Jennifer Hudson.
Right.
Now he has a reverence and respect for church, not to say that it's not, you know, not important.
Yeah.
But it's it was encouraging for me to go, like, I mean, to him, he's bringing who he is, no matter what space it is. If it's in a church, if it's in a writing session, and so that's why I love talking with different people. You know, same thing with like Zane Carney. You know, for me, I definitely grew up in the church space, and I think just hearing you talk, it's important that we bring who we are in any context. And if I'm going to write for a pop gig in a church setting, play in a church setting, play in a pop setting, they're different, but I don't know if that makes sense. Like, I think,
for sure. Yeah, to me, it's like, it's all sacred, you know, like sometimes people say this is like sacred, this is my like hobby for fun or whatever kind of music work. To me, it's all sacred. To me, it's all, I treat it all with the same amount of just respect, and it's always an honor to be able to do it. And I'm just like a purist with music. It's like impossible for me to kind of sell out in a certain way, or, you know, go into something like, oh, well, this is just, you know, whatever, for a church or something, so it doesn't need to be the best.
Right.
I literally can't do that. I can't, which is honestly sometimes if I feel like I don't have the headspace creatively or just the grace to work on certain things, I might turn stuff down, because I only want to work on things if I feel like, yeah, I'm going to give 110% to this. Right. Because that's all my brain creatively knows how to do. Sure. And it's all I want to do. So 100%.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about young Bobby for a little bit. I'm always just fascinated on young Bobby.
Yeah.
You know, the thing that I love to point out in talking with all these incredible, I mean, I just feel so blessed to have the opportunity to talk to guys like you and Charles and just all these incredible people. I personally love encouraging young musicians. You know, I think there's so much out there that can be helpful, but there's so much out there at the same time that leads to comparison, and we can quickly go, oh man, I'm not going to be as good as Bobby is producing, or you know, I'm not going to be as good of a guitar player as Zane Carney. And so we're just in this really interesting time with so much information available, which can be helpful, but equally, if it's not, you know, if we're not kind of mentored in how to receive that information, comparison can, you know, what is the quote? Comparison can be the thief of joy.
Right.
And it's really true. And so, you know, I love talking to different people, because there are so many different types of musicians, songwriters. Some people love to talk about the theory. Some people have no idea what the sharp 4 is, but they just make music sound good. And I think I even asked you, the question is like, what even is a good musician, right? Like, is it someone who can play all the scales? Is it someone who like just makes stuff sound good? And even talking with Zane Carney, I remember he said, I think the most important thing is just find what brings you joy.
Yeah.
Like, literally like what gets you excited to wake up. And now there's an element where no matter what that is, we need discipline. There's going to be days where you wake up where you don't feel like, as we were even talking about like waking up early to maybe wake up before our family to read, like there's days where you just want to sleep, but that discipline is going to help so many other aspects. And so I think about music, it's just a huge subject. And there are elements of discipline that is going to be helpful, even if it doesn't necessarily bring you joy. But at the same time, just because Zane Carney loves to play jazz, I don't think that would bring you joy.
Right, totally.
And so I love talking to different people, and to share to our viewers that find what brings you joy, and don't compare yourself to one person. So anyways, I want to talk about young Bobby. What was the first thing that you remember that it was like, oh man, music? What got you inspired to take this career path? Yeah,
well, it's kind of a funny story. So I'm one of 6 kids. I'm the second oldest. And pretty much all of us kids growing up, my parents put us into like piano lessons probably when we turned around like 10 years old, which I think is great. It wasn't like a forcing it like you're going to be a Mozart musician.
Right.
It was more just like, hey, this is a great skill to learn, and that's amazing. The funny thing is I'm the one kid out of the 6 of us that I just had no desire to play piano. I just refused. I think they might have tried like one lesson and I was just like not having it. And I was like 10 years old or something. But I just had no interest. I'm like, I don't want to play piano. And the funny thing now is I'm the one kid in my family that does music professionally.
Right.
And so I always joke, and I kind of kick myself like, man, if I had learned some classical piano training, I feel like I'd be a better musician for sure. And that's true, over the years though, I've just self-taught myself somewhat, which is great. But it's also, kind of just points to, not to like overly spiritualize it, but it does it's cool how sometimes the Lord will take people and use them in a little bit of their weakness, despite something like that.